I'm Duncan McLeod, and this is TechCentral. I'm pleased to welcome Kim Reid, the CEO of Takealot.com, back to the show now for a quick update on the e-commerce situation under lockdown level 4. Kim, welcome to the show. We chatted 3 weeks ago in the middle of level 5, and at the time you made a plea for unfettered e-commerce. Level 4 has since arrived, and there's still no unfettered e-commerce, despite the outrage from the industry, from consumers, and the industry's intense lobbying of the government. How are you guys doing, and what's the situation as it stands now?
Well, Duncan, things have opened up slightly. Obviously, coming into level 4, there are more products we can sell. I think the ICT side of things has been helpful to us, and obviously we also have Superblis, which is now open, selling winter clothing, whatever that means. And Mr. D Food is now obviously fully operational as well. So level 4 has been obviously much better for us than level 5. But I think really the issues still remain in that if you look at, and if you would have seen the latest World Trade Organization article that came out, which was very interesting, and I actually read from it right now, where it says COVID-19 pandemic has made it clear that e-commerce can be an important tool solution for consumers in times of crisis, and that it is also an economic driver, including for small businesses. So that's kind of where the logic hits the road, as it were.
Yes.
We sit in a position right now where we are saying exactly the same things as we said before. It's 9 days into lockdown level 4. We've heard platitudes from the government saying, well, they're going to be opening up e-commerce. They've got some vague language in the regulations. But 9 days later, nothing has happened. And we essentially still sit in a very similar position to what we did before, and very different from the rest of the world. And I've watched your interview with Miriam Altman.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Business Day TV have an interview with Rudy Dix from the presidency, and Kaz from Business Unity South Africa, also completely in support of e-commerce. I've heard from people in the Treasury saying they're completely supportive of e-commerce. And yet we still sit in a very similar position today. No unfettered e-commerce yet.
Since we last spoke, the Minister of Trade and Industry, Ibrahim Patel, has made some remarks about e-commerce, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something along the lines of it would be seen to be unfair if unfettered e-commerce was to be allowed, because it would compete unfairly. It would be seen to be competing unfairly with companies, retailers that don't have e-commerce operations. What's your reaction to that comment?
Again, I'm going to react by reading something again from the World Trade Organization. So the World Trade Organization says, the pandemic has made it clear that e-commerce can be an important tool solution for consumers. E-commerce can also support small businesses by making economies more competitive. So there we go. I don't need to say more than that. I think that answers that particular question. In fact, the discussion has now moved on somewhat. So I'm told now that the discussion is, yes, government is completely supportive of e-commerce, although we haven't seen any change in the regulations. But they're now concerned about the number of vehicles on the road. Now, let's just explore that for a moment. So right now, you've got e-commerce companies trading. You've got couriers trading. The vehicles are on the road already. They're just not full of parcels because they're all operating at suboptimal levels, including our own delivery fleets.
Yes.
So there's absolutely no additional vehicles that will be on the road. I mean, there may be one or two, or a couple that with increase in volumes. But we're not talking about this mass amount of vehicles that are now, all of a sudden going to appear on the road. So it's another illogical discussion, and it really becomes quite difficult to understand what the actual, issue is with e-commerce. It's supported elsewhere. It's supported in most places in South Africa, where you actually have a discussion with different areas of government. But yet we still end up with, the regulations as we have them today.
I saw this argument about vehicles, but why would more vehicles, assuming there are more vehicles on the road, why would that have an impact on spreading the virus if there's one delivery guy in the vehicle. He has a mask. He's taking all the precautions he needs in delivering goods to end users. How would having additional vehicles on the road actually spread coronavirus?
I think you're asking the wrong person that question, Duncan, because I don't actually know the answer to that. A person in a vehicle can't spread coronavirus. Again, it comes down to what is actually happening at the moment. At the moment, you have vehicles on the road. At the moment, you have delivery vehicles on the road. Those delivery vehicles are not full. They're operating. Many of these delivery companies today are just operating on fumes because they're trying to do whatever they can do to keep going. Now, if you open things up, now all of a sudden they can get proper loads into vehicles, and the economies of scales change. I think that one of the most important things that we really are missing out here, and this is what frustrates me about the time it's taken. What are we in, day 40? I think day 41 or something like that.
43, I think, last time
43, day 43. So we've been saying from day one that in level 5, e-commerce should have been operating in an unfettered environment. Okay, should be allowed to trade completely because it increases social distancing. Okay, now we've taken, I don't know, how many days, 30 something odd days to get to level 4, and we're still not operating at these levels. Companies can't continue operating like this. Time is of the essence. Jobs are being lost.
Mm-hmm.
I've got friends of mine in different parts, different industries who are laying people off today. They're laying people off because of delays in promulgating, logically reasoned regulations for managing where we are today. And that's also going to be taken into account. Jobs are being lost. Businesses are failing right now because these issues are not being addressed quickly enough.
Yeah, it's. I do wonder if the government understands fully the implications of what it's doing here on the long term, for the long-term health of our economy. But what's the situation at Takealot now? I know you are still paying your staff. How much longer can you actually carry this burden for?
Look, we've obviously received a boost now from the increased trade that we've opened up to an extent. So we had 2 businesses that were largely not operational at all, being Superbist and Mr. D Foods. So both of those businesses have come online. So we're very thankful about that. And again, we'll continue for as long as we can without laying off staff, because that's our primary concern in this environment. And I think also, again, I keep on going back. I try and find a reference point for these things, because sometimes people look at us because we're pure online players, and they say, well, you're preaching from your own hymn book. But let's have a look at the World Trade Organization documents again, and what they're saying. It increases competition, promotes social distancing, and also allows for small businesses to keep going at this stage. So it's just inconceivable for me still to be sitting here 43 days into this pandemic and into this lockdown and not having e-commerce trading. Just some of the basic points. We've got stock sitting in warehouses today.
Yeah.
That is now starting to be sold, but all that stock has VAT attached to it. Doesn't the government want VAT? Because by rights, if you have a look at how this thing unfolds, you stop e-commerce from trading as it should, you lose jobs. What do people do? They go and they then apply to the TERS fund. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now the load becomes even greater on government. I mean, we had Kisaveta, the commissioner, talking about the tax burden and the tax receipts that are all of a sudden evaporating. All these things are happening in front of our eyes, whereas e-commerce can be turned on just by saying, okay guys, you know what, it's fine, let e-commerce trade unfettered. Don't mess about with anything, just allow it to operate in an unfettered environment. What really worries me is that the way it seems to be looked at right now is that we still go down this road of trying to, regulate products. So you can sell this, you can sell that, you can sell whatever under whatever level it is. But let's take that to its conclusion as well. We're going to go into an environment where, let's say, the person in Kuruman is sitting in level 1, and the person in Cape Town is sitting at level 4. Mm-hmm. Okay. So how is an e-commerce provider or any type of online platform supposed to now distinguish between, okay, the guy in Kuruman can actually order anything on the platform, and the guy in Cape Town can only order certain things on the platform? Okay. now it becomes, it becomes a complete dog show. How do you even manage that from a policing point of view? All you're trying to do, the more these regulations unfold, the more barriers they put for themselves in having to increase the policing around this type of thing. So it just makes no sense. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. What is your, as a percentage of your normal volumes, revenue amount pre-crisis compared to level 4, where you can sell additional items like winter clothing, for example?
I think the best way to actually look at it is how many SKUs are we trading on right now? Because it's looking at, if you're looking at before and after COVID, we're trading at roughly 50% of our available SKUs that we can normally trade at. Things like even if you say, okay, fine, let's go down the product route. We're not going to open up camping, because clearly people aren't going to go camping. But you know what? Within a camping environment, you've got these coolers that you need that people would need in their homes, because many of the underprivileged would not necessarily have fridges or whatever, and they could use a cooler box that cleans it, or cools things, or something they can plug into a generator of some sort that cools that type of stuff. As soon as you go down this daft idea of trying to limit products, you end up in so many dead ends. So again, just to go back to your question, we're roughly trading at about 50% of the usual SKUs that we would normally trade at, that are available within our catalog. And then what we've also seen is we've seen a dramatic decrease in small and medium enterprise sellers on the platform and what they're able to sell, and they're scared. So they're unsure about what they can sell, what they can't sell, the supply issues. So that also, that again goes to the hub of the issue, because you've got e-commerce, which is an enabler, and that is being stopped. It's being stopped by these ridiculous regulations that are in place.
What have your discussions with the Trade and Industry Department been so far? I mean, is there any sort of warming by the DTI towards the idea of unfettered e-commerce, or maybe give us a flavor of what the discussions have been like?
Sure. So I think that, look, to be perfectly honest, we have not managed to have a direct interaction with the DTI to date. Okay, we've been dealing through various bodies. We've had to deal through the Consumer Goods Council. Mm-hmm. We've also been dealing with Business Unity, BUSA, through initiative called the Public-Private Growth Initiative. So we've been talking to people there, and we've had various types of lobbying interactions, including the much vaunted, let's all send in an email to the government, and 69,600 emails arrive, which they miraculously read over 2.5 days or 1.5 days, and then promulgated regulations that were pretty much the same as what they were initially when we saw them. So those are the channels that we've used. The interaction has warmed to e-commerce, and what I'm told now is that people are positive about e-commerce. But it's no use talking about being positive about e-commerce. Start talking about opening up. You can open up e-commerce, let it go. Let e-commerce operate in an unfettered environment. I heard, in fact, it was on your show, Miriam Altman said, if I want to buy an airplane on online, why can't I? Mm-hmm. That's exactly the point. Everything should be available. I mean, the other issue that's also very, very concerning is the way they've limited imports in the regulations as well. So I'll give you some great examples. So right now, you can import fabric for winter clothing for manufacture locally, okay? But guess what? No one's manufacturing winter clothing right now. Winter clothing season is in a sales mode, not in a manufacture mode, okay? Everyone, if they're trying to build the industry in South Africa from a clothing perspective, okay, everyone should be buying summer fabric right now, because they've got a 5 to 6 month lead time in manufacturing summer clothing. So that you can't do today. That's against the regulations. You can sell Nike sneakers, but you can't import them. Okay, not allowed in the regulations. You can sell educational books, but you can't import them. Okay, these are items that are freely available, locally produced items, and I understand that we want a locally, strong local manufacturing environment, but that's not going to happen overnight. And what should happen in the regulations is, together with saying we'll provide any item online, and again, when I talk about online, I'm talking about the small enterprise that has a Shopify front end that can deliver to your door, to Takealot, which is a sole online provider, to the likes of Mr. Price or Clicks, for that matter, who are bricks and mortar and omni-channel providers of goods. We should all be able to provide these things online, and should all be able to import whatever we need to import, because it has nothing to do with COVID-19. If you import stuff, maybe someone can explain to me how that increases the risk, the health risk. There's no increased health risk if you're importing goods.
So what are some of the restrictions there? I mean, you're allowed to trade ICT goods, for example, at the moment. Is South Africa allowing the importation of televisions, of computers, etc.?
Yeah. So the definition of ICT goods is something we can go into at another point in time. But the actual, what they have done is they have married largely the sale of goods to the import of goods, except for some notable exceptions. And those ones I've already mentioned to you.
Yeah.
But what needs to happen is they need to be able to say, and this is where why over-regulate something? As soon as you start going down this rabbit hole of trying to define absolutely every single thing that you can sell and that you can import, just say, right, an e-commerce provider can sell anything, okay, and it can import anything, or it can buy it locally produced, as long as the manufacturing arm of that particular industry is allowed to produce it under the regulations. That then opens that up completely. It's a simple thing. You don't need to define it under a particular industry or anything. You just say e-commerce can do this, and then they can import whatever they do, and off you go. You don't have people, you don't have to worry about the police trying to stop vans and search vans because certain things are or aren't possible to be sold. You're not worrying about customs, trying to dig in and understand whether is this good something that is allowed to be imported or not. It takes away the overhead, and it just provides a very simple solution to a very difficult problem at the moment.
Yeah. Has government given you any insight at all through the various lobbying organizations, business groupings, as to when it might make a decision on e-commerce? Or do you think, what's your reading of it? Do you think they're going to wait for level 3 when unfettered e-commerce is allowed?
I think we will get some movement. The problem is I don't know when.
Mm-hmm.
And these weeks just keep on drifting on. So there was an interaction. So I'll go back to the different interactions. There was the portfolio committee meeting that happened last Friday, where the minister addressed the portfolio committee, which was, you can stream it and you can watch it. You can watch it live. There was a willingness to have a discussion about e-commerce. Okay. There have been various interactions this week with governments on the various possibilities of how things change. And there have been some requests that we're aware of, and we've actually fed information into those requests as well, on how, bizarrely, how e-commerce works. That was one of the requests. How does e-commerce work? So we fed into that as well. But there's nobody has said to us, what, Sunday we're making an announcement and we will tell you what's happening with e-commerce. So this continues to drift. And remember, as every day goes past, it's I'm not being dramatic here, but jobs are lost because people make decisions. They can't live in an environment. They don't know, they've got no certainty of where things are going to. So they have to make certain decisions. And the very jobs that we're talking about are the jobs that government is so concerned about. It's warehousing jobs, it's logistics jobs. It's in various parts of the economy where e-commerce is going to bolster the economy as such. And what also has been proven worldwide, and again, if you go back to the World Trade Organization documents, you see that bouncing out of COVID-19, okay, e-commerce becomes more important.
Mm-hmm.
Because it allows for competition in the market and allows for people to get goods in this in a safe environment where they're still wary of going into shops and shopping centers and out into the streets.
My real concern now is, and I'm increasingly of the view that the lockdown is actually going to cause more damage, more harm to people's health and finances than allowing this virus to spread unchecked in the first place. The reaction may be completely over the top and could, in fact, end up damaging South Africa far more than COVID-19 on its own ever would have done.
Yes, I think the lack of decisions and timeous decisions are going to have the effect that you're talking about right now. You can always roll back a decision.
Mm-hmm.
You can see if it works or not. You can, if you've got the right testing in place, if you've got the right data that you're collecting, you can always make a decision and go, whoa, we shouldn't have, we should actually try and do this differently.
Yeah.
But we're in this paralysis mode where the economy is in a dire state, and you just have a look at all of the different projections. I've seen projections of 1 million to 2.5 million jobs affected. You've seen GDP numbers which range from anything from a 16% knock to 10% knock.
Shocking.
These are substantial issues.
Absolutely shocking. Kim, what happens next? Let's say nothing happens. There's no announcement from government for the next week. Do you take the legal route? Is going to court an option at all? Would you win?
Yes, I do believe if we went to court, we would win.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pity that BAT have pulled back from where they are, and I do think that we would actually win. When we go to court, I think it's a very difficult discussion to have from our point of view, because we belong to a multinational.
Yeah.
And how will that be perceived, and how will that work effectively? So I think it's not an easy. If I was a sole trader today, I know what I'd be doing if I had the cash to do it.
Yeah.
But that's not really something that I can answer with any real certainty. I am, however, confident. If you have a look at the lockdown regulations, where they come from, and where they come from the Disaster Management Act, and if you look at 27. I think it's 27.3 of Act 57 of 2012, I think, or 2002, I think it is, 2002. If you have a look at those regulations, it's very clear that the powers that the government are given under the Disaster Management Act have very particular requirements, and reasonableness is one of those requirements. That have to be to the benefit of the population. They mustn't detract from the mustn't put the population at harm. There's certain actual requirements in 27.3, and looking at 27.3, you've got to ask yourself, well, let's just take let's superimpose e-commerce onto this whole thing, and let's have a look at it. Well, in my view, government is acting outside of its powers in this regard. And they're not acting within the powers. They're not doing good for society. You've got an industry which is operating all over the world in an unfettered environment, and it adds jobs to the fiscus. It ensures that there's some type of economy that is going on in a very difficult situation, and yet they decide to limit it. That can't be to the benefit of South Africa, and again, you take it along the line, it leads to job losses.
Yeah,
it certainly leads to job losses long term, and in fact, short term, it'll lead to job losses, and it's already led to job losses.
So when does the situation become so untenable that legal action is inevitable?
Let me be optimistic about this. So we're hoping that within the next week we will start seeing progress on e-commerce. The signs are positive. Whether that actually culminates in real real benefit, we'll have to wait and see. All I'm urging government to do at the moment is to not make this complex. It's easy. Don't go down the route just because you've got a form in the back of a government gazette right now which is drafted in a particular way, and you can fill in boxes and start adding products to those boxes. think about, or just ask people about how things work and how things should work, and how this should be applied in a logical and sensible fashion.
Yeah.
If that attitude is taken, we'll move this thing along very, very quickly, and there will be tangible benefit to this country out of it.
What do you think the chances are of moving to level 3 lockdown soon?
Yeah, maybe it's just because it's day 43 and I'm more in a negative mindset than a positive one because of the interactions to date. I'm more worried about moving back to level 5 in certain areas.
Don't even say that, Kim. Don't even say that.
So that's, I hear it's a possibility, but again, just giving you my experience of 43 days of lobbying. Every couple of days you think, oh, we've made a breakthrough, people understand what we're saying, and this is such a logical thing to do. It's going to happen, and then 2 days later something comes up and you go, what the heck was that? So I'm not sure how it's going to unfold. Duncan, I honestly don't know. I think it's very difficult to predict.
Anyone's guess right now.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Kim Reid is the CEO of Takealot.com. Thanks so much for the update, and hopefully the next time we chat, it'll be in happier circumstances.
Let's hold thumbs.